Hello everybody, Mrs. Kip back again to tell you all about animals of the saltwater habitat. So saltwater is the oceans, which covers most of the earth. This is my favorite thing in the world. My favorite place to go is the ocean, any ocean. I think I was supposed to be a mermaid, but I grew legs. If my fins ever come in, I'm out of here. I'm going to the ocean. This is my favorite place in the world. So, this is going to be my favorite one. I'm really excited. In today's lesson, we will explain why living things live in habitats to which they are particularly suited. That's what we've been doing. We will classify water habitats as either freshwater, which we learned about yesterday, or saltwater habitats. We will explain that saltwater covers most of the earth and is found in oceans. We will identify and locate the oceans of the world on the globe: Arctic, Pacific, Atlantic, Indian, and Southern. We will describe the landscape of the ocean floor, the very bottom of the ocean. We will describe ocean life as very diverse. And we will match saltwater plants and animals to the saltwater habitat. I'm ready. Let's go. Here's Rattenborough in a canoe in the ocean waiting for us. I'm ready to hop in. Welcome to the last habitat we're going to explore. In the last read aloud, we explored freshwater habitats. Now we're going to learn about another kind of water habitat, a saltwater habitat. Saltwater habitats, as you could guess from their name, contain lots of salt. This means that we can't use salt water for drinking. Would you like to drink a cup of salty water? No thanks. And if you've ever been to the ocean and got a mouthful of salt water, it is salty. The saltiest. Well, here is planet Earth, where we live. You see all that blue? That is all oceans. It's hard to imagine, but more of the earth is covered in water than is covered with land. Most of that water is salt water in oceans and seas. Oceans are huge areas of salt water that stretch all around our planet, and they are home to almost half of the world's species of animals and millions of different plants. The water in the ocean comes from rain as well as from rivers and streams that flow into the ocean. Seas are smaller areas of salt water that have land around them or around part of them. Doesn't this look nice? Let's close our eyes and imagine we're there. Well, you can. I gotta read, but you could close your eyes and imagine you're there. I've come to the largest ocean, the Pacific, to show you a bit more about ocean habitats and the plants and animals that live in them. I'm standing on a beach looking out at the water. You can see that the waves are crashing onto the beach. This beach and any land that runs alongside the ocean is called the coastline or shoreline. Now, you may think that when you're standing on the land looking at the water, that the land stops where the water starts. It certainly looks that way, but let me get my trusty scuba gear out and walk into the water. Now that I'm in here, I'm standing on land. It's just that the land is under the water. The land slopes downward the farther I go out into the water, which means the water is getting deeper and deeper. Here we go, under the ocean. Here's a picture, a drawing, the ocean floor. The interesting thing about the ocean floor, which is the land under the ocean water, is that it isn't flat. As on land, the earth beneath the ocean waters has both mountains and valleys. This makes some areas of water in the ocean deeper than others. The Pacific Ocean is full of both plant and animal life, but not all of them share the same space. The conditions underwater are very different in various places. Some parts are deep and some are shallow, which is not deep. There are cool parts and there are warm parts. Some are dark and some are full of light. Oh, look at all of that cool sea life. Look at that squid's eyeball. It's huge. All right. There are plants and animals in nearly every part of the ocean, some in the deep, open waters far from land, and some in the shallow waters closer to the shore. Some animals, like turtles, jellyfish, and crabs, live closer to the shore where it's shallower and warmer. Some animals like it better near the surface of the water, and others prefer to live down at the very bottom of the ocean on the deep ocean floor. They have all had to adapt to the conditions of their habitat. For instance, the animals that live in the deeper parts of the ocean have had to adapt to total darkness because the sun's light just can't reach that deep. Some fish, like the devilfish, have very large mouths and sharp teeth so they can catch their prey as easily as possible. Other sea creatures have feelers on their bodies that help them feel where their food is. And some animals make their own light with special chemicals in their bodies, like when you carry a flashlight in the dark. Oh, here's some coral reef, and there's Dory. There, just keep swimming. I have now arrived at a special part of a saltwater habitat called a coral reef, which is made up of many tiny animals called corals. Corals stay in one place all their adult lives. They have stomachs and mouths and even skeletons. These skeletons can be on the inside or outside of the coral animals and are also called coral. When the coral animal dies, its skeleton remains in place and other coral animals will come and live on top of the old skeletons. The colony in which the coral lives is called a coral reef. That's so pretty. I'm here in the Pacific Ocean at a coral reef. In addition to the coral, there are many other kinds of animals around the reef. I have found everything from fish and shellfish to octopi and sharks to snails and turtles. Octopi is how you say more than one octopus. You don't say octopuses, it's octopi. And here's a starfish. Here's an animal that lies in and around the coral reef and whose name most of you can probably guess based on its shape. It's a starfish. This starfish, also known as a sea star, has 5 arms, which makes it look like a star. Although it's called a starfish, it's not actually a fish. It belongs to a group of animals that have a spiny skin all over their bodies. If I touch the starfish, I can feel that its body is covered with tiny hard bumps that helps protect it from predators such as sharks, manta rays, and other fish. Starfish are also able to protect themselves in another amazing way. If another animal actually catches and bites off one of the starfish's arms, the starfish will not die, and it can still escape. In time, a new arm will grow back to replace the missing arm. When an animal regrows a body part, it's called regeneration. Another starfish. The starfish doesn't swim. It crawls very slowly along the ocean floor using hundreds of tiny tube feet. These feet attach to whatever the starfish is crawling over. As it crawls along the floor, the starfish is always on the lookout for food. This starfish's prey includes fish, snails, clams, oysters, and crabs. Oh, here's a lobster. Here is another animal that lives in salt water. This shellfish is called a lobster. Lobsters live on the ocean floor in openings between rocks. Their hard shell stops most other animals from trying to eat them. Lobsters have many legs that they use for crawling about, and they use antennae, which are these little feelers. These are antennae too. And this is an antenna. He's got a bunch on their head to feel their way along the murky ocean floor. I have to watch out for that lobster's claws. They're called pinchers, and they're very strong. The lobster uses them to defend itself against its prey and to catch and crush its own food. Lobsters are carnivores, meat eaters. They eat fish, worms, and other shellfish. I'm going to move out of the way of this lobster before I get squeezed. Ooh, I know what this one is. Looks like I moved right into the path of another predator. This is a hammerhead shark. If you take a look, you can see how the hammerhead got its name. Its head is very thick, and it looks like a hammer from above with an eye and a nostril on each end. The hammerhead shark is a large fish, growing up to 20 feet long and weighing over 500 pounds. That's about the same weight as 10 first graders. Hammerheads like to live in warm water, so they are mostly found near the coast, where the waters are shallow and warmer. Close-up of a hammerhead shark. Sharks are carnivores. The hammerhead's favorite food is a fish called a ray, but it also likes to eat octopus, lobster, crab, and fish, including other sharks. Most sharks have a smooth and slender body, which helps them swim fast. Their mouths are full of sharp teeth to help them catch their prey. Look out for him. Ooh, here's a blue whale. So cool. Let's go back up to the surface. There's a sea animal I'm sure you'll want to see, but we have to travel further out to sea, away from the coral reef and into deeper water to see it. This amazing creature is the biggest animal in the world. What? It's a blue whale. Blue whales have blue-gray skin and are covered in a layer of blubber that helps keep them warm in the frigid ocean depths. Remember, blubber is a layer of fat that helps keep an animal warm, that helps them adapt to their habitat. Blue whales are so big, they can weigh as much as 25 elephants. What? In fact, blue whales are the biggest animal known to have lived on Earth, even bigger than dinosaurs. Guys, that's incredible. Ooh, here's a whale from the surface. The blue whale spends all of its time living in deep water, but unlike fish, it can't breathe underwater because it doesn't have gills. It needs to breathe air just like we do. The blue whale can hold its breath and stay underwater for as long as 30 minutes before eventually coming up for air. It breathes using blowholes on top of its head. Sometimes when it does not come up for air, it breathes out a huge fountain of water from the blowholes. Blue whales are carnivores. They eat lots of food to build up their blubber during the summer months when food is easy to find. Blue whales eat teeny tiny sea creatures called plankton. The plankton that blue whales eat are small shrimp-like shellfish that are about the size of your little finger. It's incredible to think that the biggest animal on Earth eats one of the smallest animals on Earth. The ocean is so huge and deep that we could spend all year looking at the plants and animals that live there and still not see them all. In fact, there are still many living things in the ocean that people and adventurous rats have not even discovered yet. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the animals in this saltwater habitat in the Pacific Ocean. We still have one more stop to make on our worldwide tour of habitats. I'll see you next time. So, like Rattenborough said, there is still so much of the ocean that scientists and nobody have ever explored, especially because some parts of the ocean are so deep that we can't even get down there to see what's down there. So, scientists know more about outer space than they do about the ocean, which is on our own planet. Isn't that crazy? I think it's crazy. All right, let's go over a few questions, and then tomorrow we have one more stop for habitats, and that's it for habitats. We're going to start something new. Before we do, let's go over my favorite, saltwater habitat. So what makes a water habitat a saltwater habitat? The answer is kind of in the question there. What makes a water habitat a saltwater habitat is salt. The water has salt, right? Ooh, can you name the 5 oceans on Earth? The Arctic, which Rattenborough took us to. That was the one that had the polar bears, the seals, the walruses, the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Indian, and the Southern. That's 5. Arctic, Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, Southern. And they were all salt water habitats. How would you describe the ocean floor, the bottom of the ocean? Remember Rattenborough said, when you're standing at the beach looking at the water, it looks like the land just stops, but it doesn't. It's in the ocean too. It's just covered in water. What does it look like at the bottom of there? So the ocean floor is not flat or level. It goes up and down, it slopes. So it is just like the land outside of the ocean. It has mountains and valleys. It's just covered in water. What are some ways the animals that live in the saltwater habitat have adapted to living in the saltwater habitat? They had large teeth, sharp teeth. They had feelers. They had antenna to feel around, see what's in front of you. In the dark especially. Some of them had chemicals to make their own light to be able to see in the dark, because it said that some parts of the ocean are so deep that the sun just can't reach down there. So it's never light down there. All right. What did a lobster like to eat? Was he a carnivore, an herbivore, or an omnivore? A lobster is a carnivore. He is a meat eater. He likes to eat fish, worms, and other shellfish. And a lobster finds shelter under and around rocks in the Coral Reef. What about a hammerhead shark? Was he an omnivore, a carnivore, or an herbivore? He was a carnivore. He liked to eat lobsters, crabs, fish, and other sharks. He's brutal. All right, the important vocabulary word from today's lesson was shallow. In the read aloud today, you heard the conditions under the water are very different in various places. Some parts are deep and some are shallow. There are cool parts and there are some warm parts. Some are dark and some are full of light. If something is shallow, it's not very deep. The water in the mud puddle is shallow. Can you think of places where you have seen shallow water? Some places you've seen that have shallow water. The water in the bathtub. is shallow. That can't go very deep or it's going to overflow. Like they said, a mud puddle is shallow. The pond where I grew up, right where you walked into the water, that's shallow. And then it gets deeper as you go. All right, guys, that's it for today. Tomorrow, we are going to learn about the habitat destruction and endangered species. And that is our last lesson on animals and their habitats. All right, I look forward to that tomorrow. Have a great night, and I'll see you then. Bye.